I don't know if you've seen this article. It was published today in today's leadership newspapers. The article is titled, "Electricity Supply. Is NERC a cog in the wheel of Nigeria's progress?" Now, the executive secretary of electricity generating companies, I know that sometimes the NERC frowns at this, associations, as it were, and sometimes doesn't recognize them. But they have a generating company association, and the executive secretary believes that the NERC has not been living up to expectation. She says that they are yet to be seen in action performing their statutory regulatory obligations with all sense of commitment and independence. She says a situation where the minister decides what the regulator should do or say is counterproductive.
Well, I guess that lady passed by my office within the week. She has the freedom to say what she wants. But I have not thought of any situation where the minister says what should be done, or at least tells NERC, no, go and do this. That has not happened. I mean, not to my knowledge, and I can't see it happening from the way the minister comports himself. The minister knows very well the role of NERC, and knows that NERC is independent, and I don't think that for any reason our independence has been trampled upon. So
maybe your independence has not been tampered with, but then when you talk about leading, because they also expect that the NERC will play that role. Yes, the ministry is there, but then people expect that sometimes the regulator is bigger than the ministry, like we see in telecoms, where the beg your pardon, now can't quite remember the name of the regulatory commission, the NCC, beg your pardon, is quite large. People remember the NCC more than they remember the Ministry of Communication. Do you think that the NERC will get there, or are they there right now?
They are definitely not there right now, for the reason that you see, the power sector is a little bit different from the telecom sector. The basic difference is that for you to get electricity here, there must be a wire taking off from one point and coming here. If it doesn't happen, you won't get electricity. In telecoms, you can, of course, your telephone is not connected to any wire. Your handset is not connected to any wire. So that makes telecom regulation much easier. Of course, there's also the social part of the power sector that for a long time, it's a necessity. Everybody has always seen it as a social responsibility of the government. So even paying bills, which is less than the telecom bills, remember? But a typical driver will have 3 phones, and he buys credit for the 3 phones. But asking to pay for electricity will tell you, no, it's too much, So this is about mindset, But in terms of leadership, I believe that NERC, as it is constituted today, gives the right leadership. Unfortunately, you don't expect them to be known. NCC had been there for quite a while, compared with NERC, and of course, all the problems about selling the assets and managing the assets after the type of people they were sold to, and so on and so forth.
Well, we'll talk about the problems that affect the everyday man, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is ensure that those who need electricity in Nigeria are able to get it and their service delivered to them, which is currently, in some instances, or should we say in many instances, it's not the case. But then we're dealing with the big players, because they're still the ones who still look to you for direction. Now, there's the question of capacity of the NERC to enforce contractual obligations. I'll quote a certain Mr. Sam Iboni, who says that following the disbandment of a presidential task force set up to ensure implementation of the privatization process by this administration, a vacuum of coordination became noticeable. It created a coordination gap which even has not been filled to date. For instance, DISCOs, which used to pay 80% for energy received, has been paying much less through embeds to the GENCOs, and no stringent measure has been taken to enforce the terms of relationship in the value chain. Is the NERC unaware or simply incapable of enforcing the terms of contract?
Well, we came in February. That's not an excuse. We have studied the situation. We have looked at the tariff shortfall, and I will tell you something. You see, the average Nigerian would, let me say, has not really been trained to pay his bills. Let me put it that way. In some climes, when they give you scholarship, in Germany, for instance, where I was a visiting professor for a while, if government gives you scholarship, they give you the money and say, look, go and pay your school fees. So you know that actually there's need to pay. So the power sector suffered that level of, how do I put it? You know, people just believed it's a social service. So now to get people to pay is relatively difficult. No excuses for anybody, including the discos. There's also the issue of investment in the discos. Okay, it's like they had remained the way they were when they were sold. And if you know what goes into you getting power here, then, I mean, I know. I've been around this sector since 1984. So I know what it involves to get power here and get power to everybody's home, you know. So there's the problem in the sector that has to do with serious illiquidity. I'm surprised that the Genco is complaining because, after all, government has just gone out of our way to get the power sector recovery plan approved and indeed made available some money that to be used to, as it were, fill the gap.
Are you talking about the 701
billion, yeah.
Which they say they are yet to see?
Well, you see, what I don't understand most of the time is that when you go to the bank to borrow, you know how long it takes. You know, because there are a few issues to be sorted out. So what makes them think that if the central bank has been asked to give this money, they will do it? The central bank is a bank. So you have to satisfy some conditions.